Okay, I have a proposition for you. I want you to just imagine a scenario for a second.
Okay.
It's maybe 20 years from now. You walk into a clinic, you know the type. Pristine white walls, minimalist furniture, very expensive coffee in the waiting room.
Oh, yeah, I can picture it.
And a doctor in a really sharp suit sits you down, slides a contract across the desk, and the pitch is, it's simple. We can cure death.
That's the ultimate sales pitch, isn't it? The fountain of youth, but with server racks instead of magic water.
Exactly. They tell you, we're going to map your brain, every single neuron, every synapse, every electrical impulse, and then we're going to upload that data to the cloud.
And your consciousness, your memories, your bad jokes will live forever in a digital paradise.
No more aging, no more back pain, just eternal uptime. The question is, do you sign the dotted line?
It's so tempting. It really is. But before anyone, rushes to grab a pen, you have to ask the one question that always gets buried in the fine print.
Which is?
If you sign that paper, is the thing that wakes up in the cloud actually you?
Or is it just a really sophisticated chatbot that happens to know your Netflix password?
Exactly.
That is the nightmare scenario, and that right there is exactly where we're heading today. Welcome back to the Deep Dive.
We're unpacking a document labeled System Override Research Files Case Study, #002.
And I have to be honest, this file gave me a bit of an existential crisis last night.
It's a heavy one, for sure. What's so fascinating about this file is how it takes two completely contradictory theories about human consciousness.
And it just smashes them together.
Smashes them together. On one side, you have the mind-uploading dream, the whole Silicon Valley religion, and on the other, you have the receiver hypothesis, which, it draws on quantum physics.
And the stakes here are massive.
Yeah.
Because one theory says we can become, like, digital gods.
And the other theory says if we try that, we're essentially committing suicide and replacing ourselves with hollow shells.
And if that receiver hypothesis is right, well, let's just say we might all be living with some serious input lag.
Some significant input lag. About 300 milliseconds of it, to be precise.
Which suggests that you and I might not even be the ones, playing the game.
We might not be.
We are definitely going to get to that lag because it is mind-blowing. But we have to start with the status quo. The file calls it the false promise.
Right.
We see this in the headlines all the time. Billionaires pouring cash into connectomics. What is the actual logic there? Why are they so convinced that a hard drive can be a person?
It's all rooted in what's called the computational theory of mind. It's a very materialist view.
Okay.
The whole premise is that the brain is just wetware. It's biological hardware. Your neurons are the wiring, your synapses are the logic gates, and consciousness is just the software running on that architecture.
So it's like my laptop. If I copy a Word document from my laptop to a USB stick, it's the exact same document. The information is identical.
That's the logic.
So if I copy the information of me onto a silicon chip, it's still me.
Precisely. The connectome theory argues that if you can map the trillions of connections in your brain and replicate that structure digitally, then the lights should just turn on. The system should wake up.
But our source material, this system override file, it argues that this is a fatal category error.
It is. It brings up something it calls the fax machine problem.
Oh, I love this analogy. It's so analog, but it just completely destroys the high-tech argument. So walk us through the fax machine problem.
Okay, so picture an old-school fax machine.
Hmm.
You have a handwritten letter. Let's say it's a love letter, something unique and precious.
Sure.
You want to send it to a friend in Tokyo. You feed it into the machine. The machine scans it, converts the pattern of ink into data, and transmits it over the phone lines.
Standard stuff.
Right. In Tokyo, a printer activates. It spits out a piece of paper. And it has your handwriting, your words, even that little smudge of ink in the corner where your hand slipped. To the person in Tokyo, it looks exactly like the letter.
The information was successfully transferred.
The information, yes. But here's the catch. You are still holding the original letter in your hand.
Right.
The fax machine didn't transport the letter. It copied it.
The original didn't magically fly through the wire.
Yeah. So now, apply this to mind uploading. You go to that fancy clinic. They scan your brain. They create the digital file. The process completes, and a digital version of you wakes up in the simulation, ready to, fly through the metaverse.
And it remembers walking into the clinic. It thinks the procedure worked.
It's totally convinced. But what happens to the biological you, the one who's still sitting in the chair?
I'm still sitting there. I didn't go anywhere. I'm looking at the doctor asking, so, did it work?
Right. And meanwhile, there's a copy of you enjoying eternal life. You have literally branched reality.
That's a problem.
And here is the dark turn that the file really emphasizes. For mind uploading to be sold as immortality, you usually have to discard the failing biological body.
Of course.
In fact, to get the kind of resolution needed to map every single synapse, many theoretical models suggest the process would have to be destructive. You'd have to slice the brain to map it.
So to upload me, they have to kill me. And they tell me, don't worry, you'll wake up in the cloud.
But I don't wake up.
The copy wakes up.
The copy wakes up.
Yeah.
From the perspective of the copy, it worked. Continuity is preserved. But for the original, for you, the screen just goes black. You don't jump into the machine, you just end.
That is terrifying. It's not continuity at all. It's replacement. We're basically talking about building a monument to the dead, as the file calls it.
It brings up the concept of the P-zombie.
The philosophical zombie, which sounds like a B-movie monster, but it's actually a really deep concept.
Oh, it is. A P-zombie is a being that is physically, behaviorally, completely identical to a human.
So if you pinch it, it says ouch.
It says ouch.
Mm-hmm.
If you tell it a joke, it laughs. If your wife asks it about your honeymoon, it recounts the details perfectly. But, and this is the absolute key, there is no inner light.
No one home.
There is no observer behind the eyes. It's simulating the emotion, but it's not feeling the emotion. It's just data processing, not experience.
And the system override file argues that a digital upload would be exactly that, a highly sophisticated P-zombie. It might comfort your relatives because it sounds like you, but you are not in there.
You're not home.
So the brain isn't a hard drive. You can't just copy-paste the soul. But this leads to the big pivot in the document. If the brain isn't producing consciousness like a generator produces electricity, then what is it doing?
Because it's obviously involved.
Right. If I drink too much coffee, my consciousness changes. If I get hit on the head, it changes.
That's the undeniable link.
Yeah.
But the file suggests we need to swap the metaphor entirely. Stop thinking generator and start thinking receiver.
This is the receiver hypothesis.
Right. And this isn't just, fringe sci-fi. It actually aligns with theories like orchestrated objective reduction proposed by Sir Roger Penrose and Stuart Hameroff.
That's some heavy physics.
It's very complex physics, but the metaphor is beautifully simple. The brain is a radio.
Okay, let's play with the radio analogy.
Imagine you have a radio in your kitchen. It's tuned to a classical station, playing a symphony. It's beautiful, complex music.
Okay.
Now, if you take a hammer and you smash that radio, the music stops. Silence.
Right. The kitchen goes quiet.
But did you destroy the symphony? Did you destroy the broadcast signal?
No, of course not. The broadcast is still happening. I just broke the box that was catching the signal.
Exactly. Under the receiver hypothesis, the brain is a kind of biological antenna. It has evolved to tune in to a specific frequency of consciousness.
So the music, my awareness, my me-ness, is a signal that exists in, what, the electromagnetic field?
The electromagnetic field, or perhaps even deeper, in the zero-point field of quantum mechanics. Your body is just the hardware. The signal is coming from somewhere else.
And this would explain why damage to the brain affects consciousness.
Perfectly. If you damage the tuner on a radio, the sound gets staticky. It gets distorted. The voice might sound weird, but the source of the voice is untouched.
Which makes the fax machine failure make total sense. If I build a perfect replica of a radio, atom by atom, but I don't turn it on, or I don't know how to tune it to the station.
You just have a box of parts. You're the P-zombie. It looks like a radio, but it's not playing the music because the music isn't inside the radio.
It never was.
It never was.
That is a massive shift in perspective. It feels more hopeful than the hard drive theory because it implies the signal survives the destruction of the radio, but it also opens up this incredibly weird question. If the signal is coming from outside, where is it coming from?
And that is the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Because if we are receivers, that leads you naturally to the next big section of the file, the simulation argument.
I loved the metaphor the source used here because it's so specific. It uses World of Warcraft, the MMORPG model.
It fits perfectly. If you think about an online game, you have three distinct components. You've got the avatar, you've got the interface, and you have the player.
Let's break those down because I think this distinction solves a lot of the confusion people have about simulation theory. It's not just nothing is real.
No, it's structural. First, you have the body.
Yeah.
In this model, the body is the avatar. It's the elf or the warrior you see on the screen.
Okay.
It has stat strength, stamina, health points, and it is subject to the rules of the game, world gravity, inertia, biological decay. Those are just the physics engine of the simulation.
So when I trip and stub my toe, that's just my avatar interacting with the collision detection of the physics engine.
That's exactly it. Then you have the brain, and this is crucial in this model. The brain is not the player. The brain is the interface. It's the UI and the controller.
The UI, so its job is to render the graphics.
Yes. Your eyes take in photons raw data, and the brain renders it into an image you can understand. Your ears take in vibration. The brain renders it into sound, and it handles the controls.
So it executes commands.
Right, when you want to move your hand, the brain is the code that translates the command move hand into the specific muscle contractions required. But the brain is just the dashboard.
Which leaves consciousness.
The consciousness is the player, the entity sitting at the keyboard somewhere in base reality or the cloud, watching the screen. You are not the elf running around the forest. You are the one controlling the elf.
It's a compelling model, but I always get stuck on the visceral nature of it, you know? If I'm just a player in the cloud, why does heartbreak hurt so much? Why does a sunset feel so profound? Why doesn't it feel like I'm holding a controller?
Immersion. A good game needs good haptic feedback. But here is where the file just drops the hammer. It presents actual scientific evidence suggesting that we aren't as in control as we think we are. It suggests we are dealing with network latency.
This is the Benjamin Libet experiment. I remember reading about this in Psych 101, but I always found it baffling. Can you break down what Libet actually found?
Okay, so this was back in 1983. Benjamin Libet hooked participants up to an EEG to monitor their brain activity. He sat them in front of a specialized clock and gave them a simple task. Lift your finger whenever you feel like it. Just a random, spontaneous decision. And note the exact time on the clock when you decided to move.
Seems straightforward. I decide, my brain fires, my finger moves. Cause and effect.
That's the expected chain of custody. Conscious decision, brain activity, action. But Libet found the complete opposite.
Oh.
He found that the brain initiated the motor activity, something called the readiness potential, about 300 to 500 milliseconds before the person was consciously aware of deciding to move.
Wait, hold on. Let me get this straight. My brain starts moving my finger half a second before I think I'm going to move my finger.
Correct. The action is physically initiated before the conscious thought appears. Now, for decades, materialists have used this to argue that free will is an illusion.
Right. They say, see, your brain is a machine doing things on autopilot, and your consciousness is just a story you tell yourself afterwards to take credit.
Like a press secretary explained what the president already did. Yes, I intended to do that. But our source file, System Override, interprets this completely differently. It doesn't say there's no free will. It says that's the ping.
The ping. Like in a video game.
Network latency. Think about the MMORPG model. The player, your consciousness, is in the cloud. The avatar, your body, is on Earth.
Okay.
The player sends the command, lift finger. That signal has to travel through the medium, the quantum field, the electromagnetic spectrum, whatever connects the two realities. That travel time creates lag.
So the signal arrives, the body starts to move, and then the brain, the interface, has a problem. It sees the body moving, but the conscious mind hasn't registered the decision yet because of the delay.
So the brain retroactively generates the feeling, I just decided to do this, and timestamps it backwards to synchronize the events.
It's smoothing out the frame rate.
It's covering up the lag so the avatar doesn't realize it's being controlled remotely.
That's absolute mind-blowing. The feeling of, I am choosing to speak right now is basically a user interface trick.
We are living on a 300 meters delay, and our brain is just editing the video in real time so we don't notice.
We are playing on a server with high latency.
And the fact that we don't notice it is a testament to how good the interface is. It maintains the immersion of the simulation perfectly.
This really connects all the dots for me.
Yeah.
If we have the fax machine proving we can't upload and the radio proving we're receiving a signal,
Then the lag proves the signal is coming from far away.
it creates a consistent picture, doesn't it? But this brings us to the final part of the file. And honestly, this is where we go from interesting physics to spiritual vertigo.
Yeah, this is the deep end.
Because if consciousness is a signal coming from a remote server, we have to ask, who is the player? And how many players are there?
This is what the file calls the ultimate hack. And again, it uses gaming terminology to explain a concept that's usually reserved for mystics. It talks about multiboxing.
I know this term. In gaming, multiboxing is when one, hardcore player sets up 10 computers and plays 10 different characters at the same time.
Right, running a whole party by themselves.
The healer, the tank, the damage dealer, they're all controlled by one guy.
One player, multiple avatars. The source applies this to the universe. It references the egg theory, which was popularized by a famous short story, but here it's treated as a structural possibility of the receiver model.
And what's the conclusion?
The terrifying, or perhaps comforting conclusion, is that there might not be billions of players. There might only be one.
One single consciousness, multi-boxing 8 billion lives.
The file argues that the separation we feel, the me versus you, is a limitation of the hardware. The radios are separate, so they think the music is separate, but the broadcast is the same. I am you, you are me. We are just different active windows on the same desktop.
That completely reframes human conflict, war, politics, crime. If this theory holds any water, every conflict is just the player fighting themselves.
It makes it seem kind of absurd, doesn't it? The file describes empathy not just as an emotion, but as a glitch in the masking.
What does that mean?
A moment of clarity where the player briefly realizes, wait, why am I attacking this other character? I'm playing that character too. It's the barrier between the avatars just thinning for a second.
It's like realizing you're playing chess against yourself. You can't really win.
And it reframes death too. If the avatar dies, the player doesn't. You just log out.
Okay.
Maybe you played a merchant for 80 years. Game over. Okay, switch tabs. Now focus on the warrior you started in another continent or the artist you're playing in the 22nd century. The signal never dies. It just shifts focus.
It answers the question of why, too, in a way. If you were an eternal singular consciousness, wouldn't you get bored? Wouldn't you want to shatter yourself into billions of pieces just to experience something? To experience surprise?
That's the egg concept. The universe is an incubator. The only way for the one to learn is to become the many. It needs to experience every joy, every heartbreak, every single stub toe to understand what it is.
It needs the limitation of the avatar to feel anything at all. It's a beautiful thought, but it's also incredibly lonely. It means that ultimately the universe is just one mind talking to itself in a hall of mirrors.
Or playing a game with itself.
Yeah.
Which brings us right back to the start. If we aren't the hardware, if we aren't the brain, then selling us an upload of our hard drive is just selling us a cage.
Because you're trapping a copy in a loop while the real player has already moved on to the next game.
Precisely. The map is not the territory, and the brain is not the mind. If you sign that contract at the clinic, you're just paying for a high-tech Xerox of your persona.
Wow. We have covered a huge amount of ground today. I mean, we started with the arrogance of Silicon Valley thinking they can fax your soul to a server.
Right.
We smashed that radio to prove the signal exists outside of it. We realized we're all lagging by 300 milliseconds because of quantum latency. And we ended up as a single cosmic gamer multi-boxing the entire human race.
It's a lot to process. But I think the most valuable takeaway is simply looking at your own experience a little differently. We tend to view ourselves as these isolated, self-contained machines. I am this body.
Yeah.
But the evidence, from the Libet experiment to the physics of consciousness, it suggests we are much more porous than that. We are connected.
So, listener, here is your reflection for the day. When you look in the mirror tomorrow morning, what are you looking at? Do you see a hard drive that stores you? Or do you see an antenna, a biological receiver tuned into a frequency that is passing through you right now?
And if we are all just avatars played by the same entity, if every person you meet is just you in a different skin, then every conversation, every argument, every act of kindness is just the universe interacting with itself.
Which leaves us with one final provocative thought from the source material. If we're all just characters played by the same player, playing against ourselves, what is the win condition? Is there one? Or are we just trying to keep the game running as long as possible?
Maybe the point isn't to win. Maybe the point is just to play.
Something to think about while you're dealing with your input lag today. Thanks for diving in with us. We'll see you in the next one.